Hello students and welcome to Royal Palace PU College Jamkhandi online classes. Dear students, we are in the chapter called as BSc first year, chapter number 2 biological classification, and today we will be studying the last topic of this chapter. The topic name is viruses, viroids and lichens. As far as examination point of view, there might be 3 marks or 5 mark questions relating to viruses, and there will be some kind of 1 mark questions relating to viroids and lichens. So please be with me. We'll try to understand those characters one by one and we'll finalize this particular chapter. Okay students, so once again I'm telling you that in the previous topics we have studied about different characteristics of different organisms of different kingdoms. We studied about the characters and classifications of kingdom Monera. We studied about characters and classifications of kingdom Protista. We even studied the characters and classifications of kingdom Fungi too. Variety of characteristics entering into different organisms, entering into different kingdoms. All those have one thing in the common, that whatever it may be, they were added in case of any of the kingdoms. But here it is quite different. Why? What is that specificity? Come on, let us understand. The first thing is that we need to study about the general characteristics of these viruses. A general introduction about these viruses. When we come to know a little introduction about these viruses, then we'll enter into writing the characteristics of viruses. Okay students, now one by one we'll try to understand. Right. So the first thing is that, sir, do you have any kind of kingdom or any kind of classification with respect to viruses? Dear students, make my words very clear that including all the organisms of this planet Earth, viruses are the only organisms which are not at all placed in any of the kingdoms. There is no kingdom of virus. There is no specific section wherein which viruses can be added. Why? The first rule of kingdoms of classification is that it may be prokaryotic cell or it may be eukaryotic cell. A cell should be there. It may be single cell or it may be multi-cell. A cell should be there. In case of viruses, one of the basic characteristic is that viruses are acellular in nature. I repeat the word, viruses are acellular, which means that viruses do not possess, viruses do not have cells in their body. So cell itself is absent. So they are like the naked bodies. Whatever that is present inside a cell, in general, it is outside of it, but with the different names and different compositions actually, right? So the first point here, I need to tell you that in the 5 kingdom classification of Whittaker, there is no mentioning of some acellular organisms like viruses, viroids and lichens. So the first sentence here, I am telling you that Whittaker's 5 kingdom classification does not include viruses, does not include viroids, does not include lichens. Okay, because these 3 are acellular in nature, or in general they do not possess any cell. That is the first thing, the basic characteristic of the viruses. A little introduction. Okay, now coming to the next point. They say that the viruses did not find a place in classification since they are not truly living. If we understand living as those organisms that have a cell structure, as I mentioned, right? So Viruses have a characteristic that they are living only in the presence of a host. Consider that I am a person. Consider I am the host. I am a human being or an organism. So there is a virus. That virus might be present in air. That virus might be present in soil. That virus might be present in all those places wherever I see. But if that virus, if it is outside the body of host, outside the body or outside the body of an organism, then that particular virus is non-functional. It will be functional only when, or it will replicate only when, or it will duplicate only when it enters into my body. My body is nothing but a host body. If it enters into another animal's body, that animal is a host body. So, generally, viruses are living in the host body and the viruses are non-living in the external atmosphere, environment or outside the host body. So, we cannot say that the viruses are living or we cannot say that the viruses are non-living. Hence, it gives a specific confusion to understand by the classified people, by the scientists, by the biologists to divide them into specific groups. There will be variety of viruses and within the viruses there are classification or types. But entire viruses are not at all kept in any of the kingdoms. Okay, the basic thing is that they do not possess any basic characteristics relating to living thing or non-living thing. Okay, so the third point, once again the same explanation says the viruses are non-cellular or acellular organisms that are characterized by having an inert crystalline structure outside the living cell. Crystalline structure, once again it is like the one which is inert, the one which is inactive, the one which is dysfunctional, the one which is not at all performing any actions, right? So like that, a solid structure, and that structure is completely inactive outside the body of an organism. Hence, these are all completely acellular, non-cellular organisms, right? But when they enter into a specific host, try to understand, it may be my body, it may be a human body, it may be a plant body, it may be an animal body, it may be any body, right? Because viruses can kill any organism, right? There are viruses which can kill bacteria, there are viruses which can kill fungus, there are viruses which can kill, infect the humans, there are viruses which can kill, infect the plants, there are viruses which can kill, infect the animals, etc. etc. Viruses are the supermost organisms which have got very specific constitution of killing the organisms. Okay, now when they enter into the host body of any organism, host body, they enter into that particular cell, and inside the cell they enter into that genetic machinery. So we have got a cell, and inside the cell there will be the presence of the chromosomes, and there will be a presence of DNA. Of course, these are the basic things, right? So these viruses enter into that cell and make such a machinery mechanism, so that the host's DNA will be converted into the viral DNA, such that the host's mechanism will be converted into the viral DNA. It creates a specific mechanism. It has got that potential that if it enters into my body, it enters into the one of the cell of my body. Inside the cell, after some time, it understands the environment and converts that particular machinery, that is the DNA, into its own DNA, and it infects the cells, it kills the cells, starts producing its own offsprings, and the number of viruses increase. They infect the number of other living cells, thereby deleting destroying the complete immune system of that individual, and in the end it ends by killing it. Okay, students. So that's why they say that once they infect a cell, they take over the machinery of the host cell to replicate themselves, killing the host. Okay. Now coming to the some of the other introductions and introduction to some of the scientists who worked on viruses. Dear students, please make them important because these questions have been asked in our NEET examinations. Different scientists have been asked, okay, different scientists and their work, and some of the names we should have to discuss, okay. First one, the name virus, that means venom or poisonous fluid, was given by Pasteur. So first thing, in case of viruses, we need to remember that the person who told to the entire world that viruses are nothing but poisonous substances. Poison, Visha, the another name venom, that kills the host body. They are very supreme dangerous organisms, and that particular statement was given by a scientist called as Pasteur, Louis Pasteur. So first thing that you have to write it down, that Pasteur was the scientist who gave the name called as venomous organisms or the poisonous fluid having organisms for viruses, the first scientist. Coming to the next scientist called as DJ Ivanovsky. DJ Ivanovsky. I repeat the word DJ Ivanovsky. Right? In the year of 1892, recognized certain microbes as causal organism of Mosaic disease of the tobacco. These were found to be smaller than bacteria because they passed through bacteria-proof filters. Very simple thing. See, first thing is that there was a plant called as tobacco plant, and that tobacco plant's leaves, plant's leaves were appearing a little different, maybe a little whitish or a little blurry or a little spottish. So there will be a leaf, and onto the leaf there will be spots of burn, spots of deletion. Okay, so the plant got infected. Okay, now they mentioned that this particular plant, it got a disease by the microorganisms, right? So they mentioned it as the line was like this. The patches onto the leaf were like this. It's like a mesh. Okay, so and it was looking like a tile appearance, like a mosaic design. So that's why they said a word called as tobacco mosaic disease. Okay, very simple thing. Tobacco mosaic disease is a disease which connects to whom? The tobacco plant. Okay, now during that time, the science was not that much improved. The technology was not that much improved. All they were having was the knowledge of only a little introduction of bacteria. So what they did, they took the plant infected part, they added into the solution, and then they filter it. Okay, after the solution, when it gets all the materials in it, they filtered it. Okay, and those filters will be having small pores, right? So if the bacteria is there, then that bacteria, while filtering, it should have to come onto the surface, or it should float onto the surface, or it should not cross that bacterial spore or filter structures, right? The bacteria will be on top of it. But when they filtered it, when they saw the results, nothing was floating onto it. Everything passed below those holes only, right? That mesh screen will be like this, right? Will be like this, and leaving this mesh screen, the organism went past on it. If the organism is bigger than the hole, then it will be on top of it. But the organism was smaller than this hole, which cleared them that it is not a bacteria. So there was a scientist called as D.J. Ivanovsky who mentioned that the mosaic disease of the tobacco plant is because of viruses, and he understood and isolated that particular virus and he named that virus as TMV. Let me write it. The virus name he mentioned it as TMV. The name of TMV is tobacco mosaic virus. Okay, let me repeat it again. Tobacco mosaic virus. And the introduction of this particular virus was given by whom? D.J. Ivanovsky. Okay, so tobacco mosaic virus. In the examinations, you might find a question saying that draw a neat labeled diagram of tobacco mosaic virus. One question. And question number 2, draw a neat label diagram of a bacteriophage. I'll tell you in short minutes. Right. The next thing is about Beijerinck, the next scientist. M.W. Beijerinck demonstrated that the extract of infected plants of tobacco could cause infection in healthy plants and are called as the fluid as contagium vivium fluidum. Right. So this particular scientist called as M.W. Beijerinck, he entered into a next level. He took the same tobacco plant, and since it already mentioned that tobacco mosaic virus is there, and he understood the structure of that virus, he did some experiments on that particular virus, and after the experiments he concluded something, that the protein or the chemical which is present in these viruses are not normal in nature, are not healthy in nature, are not useful in nature. Okay, instead he found out that these particular chemicals or this particular protein is severely dangerous to any organism of this planet Earth. Okay, so it is because of this particular chemical is poisonous in nature, this particular chemical is venomous in nature, right? So particularly he mentioned that this fluid is dangerous, this fluid is venomous, this fluid is poisonous. Okay, and in that language he mentioned this as the contagium, means infectious, which can cause disease and which can cause that disease to other neighboring plants also. Contagium vivum means the living, and finally fluidum means the fluid or the liquid. So infectious living fluid was the word which was given by whom? M.W. Beijerinck. Okay, coming to the last scientist called as W.M. Stanley, showed that viruses could be crystallized and crystals consist largely of the proteins. Okay, this is another work on viruses, that he said that take out that particular portion of that virus, and that viruses under variety of experiments, it can be formed in the form of crystals. Okay, it can be formed in the form of crystals, and these crystals contain proteins in them. Okay, one of the important section, this one also. Okay, so we studied about 3 to 4 scientists, mentioning them as Pasteur, D.J. Ivanovsky, M.W. Beijerinck, and W.M. Stanley. So these 4 scientists, we need to remember them and their work. Coming to this slide contains 2 photographs directly from NCERT textbook. The first one here, the A1. A1 says this A diagram is of the tobacco mosaic virus TMV. So in the examinations, they might ask you a question relating to this, that draw a neat label diagram of this particular organism such as TMV. This is the genetic material RNA, DNA or RNA. The TMV contains RNA, and the external portion, see this one is the genetic material inside of the body, and these external structures, these are called as the protein structures, and generally these protein structures have got a name in viruses, and that is capsid. Okay students, capsid. And this is the diagram number B, and this question also has been asked many a times to draw. Okay, so draw a neat little diagram of a word called as bacteriophage. Remember, try to say this word here. The word says bacteriophage. Sir, what is the meaning of bacteriophage? Bacteriophage, is it a bacteria or is it a virus? Let me repeat it again, that bacteriophage is not at all a bacteria. Bacteriophage is a virus. Let me repeat it. Bacteriophage is a virus. But when we understand the word bacteriophage, looks like that it is a bacteria. No, it is not a bacteria. It is a virus which infects and kills the bacteria, hence the name. Okay, let me repeat. A virus which kills the bacteria is called as bacteriophage. Okay, so this one also having the diagram, and in this it is a head region, and this one only they were telling that it is a crystalline structure. Okay, which one? This one. This is a crystalline structure, and this crystalline structure contains proteins in it. This is a collar, and from the collar there is a sheath like a structure which can bend, which is a flexible in nature, and in the end it has got the tails or the legs, and these can help that particular virus to stand in a place, to hold grip of a place. Okay, now coming to the characteristics of viruses, students, we have studied a lot of this thing, but then also one by one we'll finish it as fast as possible, right? The first one is that they are inert outside their specific host cell. The point is, inert outside means they are inactive outside the host cell. I mentioned it earlier. Inside the host body they are active, outside the host body they are inert or they are inactive. Okay, now they are obligate parasites. Obligate parasites means they generally, whatever it may be, for their growth and development, they compulsorily require whom? The host body. Without the host body, it is highly impossible for a virus to survive. It may be coronavirus also. Coronavirus is inert outside the specific host cell. Coronavirus is obligate parasite which completely depends on what? Only coronavirus, not only coronavirus. There are so many. All the viruses are completely parasites, right? And even we can say that they are completely pathogenic also, right? So parasites are those organisms which live inside the body of the host for their growth and development. Many a times I mentioned about it. Right. So in addition to the proteins, viruses also contain a genetic material, but that could be either RNA or DNA. Now, when we studied about this diagram, I told you that this is called as the head region, the crystal region, and this crystal region, the head region is covered by, mark my words, this will be asked for 1000 times, already had been asked, that the external structure, this is the head, and external structure of this head region called as the protein region has got a name, and that name is capsid. See here, capsid, right? So capsid means that proteinaceous coat, and what is present inside the head? Inside the head, what is present? This is capsid, and inside the capsid, what is present? There is a presence of genetic material. If I have to draw the diagram once again, I will be writing this one like this. See, this is the head region, and the outer structure of head region is called or made up of the proteinaceous coat, and that is called as capsid. But inside of this particular head region, there is a presence of genetic material, and this genetic material may be of two types. It may be as RNA or it may be as DNA also. Okay students, the rest will be continued as like that, right? So in addition to the proteins, Viruses also contain genetic material that could be either RNA or DNA. Coming to the fourth point, which says that the viruses contains both RNA and DNA is a myth, which means that one virus, it should contain either DNA as the genetic material, or a virus should contain, if not DNA or RNA. Okay, so out of these two, any one genetic material should be present, not both of them. Okay, students, either RNA is present or the DNA is present. Both the genetic materials are not present. Okay, now the next thing, a virus is a nucleoprotein and the genetic material is infectious. The word is very simple, students. Do not get confused about it. The virus is a nucleoprotein. The meaning of nucleo means that it is a nucleic acid. Okay, nucleic acids are of two types, DNA and RNA. Protein we already discussed as a capsid. Okay, capsid. This is a protein. Nucleic acid is of two types and they are RNA or the DNA. RNA or DNA, right? Once again, let me repeat, virus is a nucleoprotein. How? Nucleo means nucleic acid. Nucleic acid means genetic material. Genetic material means DNA or RNA. Protein means capsid, right? That capsid, the proteinaceous coat which is present outside. Now, the combination of protein and even this particular nucleic acid makes the head region. But the inner content such as RNA or DNA, the scientists say that it is very harmful, it is very dangerous and it can cause diseases, hence the name infectious. Okay, now coming to the next point, in general viruses that infect plants have a single stranded RNA and viruses that infect animals have either single or double stranded RNA or double stranded DNA. See, this is the structure of the DNA. So this DNA, this is a generalized structure of DNA. Okay, sir. Now, in this case, this is made up of two strands. This is one strand and at the same time, this is another strand. One strand, another strand, two strands. And when we combine them, there is a formation of what? The DNA. Okay. Now, this is a single stranded, you can call this one a single stranded DNA, or the upper one as the double stranded DNA. Right? In some of the cases, when we will be discussing about the nature of DNA and RNA in one of the topics. Right? If it is made up of only one strand, it is called a single strand, and if it is joined by two strands, it is called as double strand. They say that the viruses that infect plants have got single stranded RNA and the viruses that infect the animals, they are single stranded or double stranded RNA or DNA. Now, coming to the next thing, as the seventh point, bacterial viruses or bacteriophages. Underline this one, very important. What are bacteriophages? Bacteriophages are nothing but the organisms which kill the bacteria, and they are generally viruses. Phages means viruses that infect the bacteria. Okay, are usually double-stranded DNA viruses. Underline it. The protein called as the capsid is made up of small subunits called as capsomeres and protects the nucleic acid. See, they are talking about this one. See, this is the one part. All these are crystalline in nature. The design itself is superior and wonderful. Right? All these are crystalline in nature. The entire thing is called as the proteinaceous coat, and that is called as the capsid here. And this capsid are these things. The capsid is containing a specialized material called as capsomere. The word comes here called as the capsomere. Right, capsomere, and it helps in the protection of that inner nucleic acid. See, this is the head region and it is made up of capsomere and capsid. The inner content is the genetic material, and that is generally DNA or RNA. So the head region helps, or the head region protects the DNA or RNA, or in short, the capsid or capsomere protects the inner genetic material. Now coming to the next point, and that is the capsomeres are arranged in helical or in polyhedral geometric forms. Sir, what is the meaning of helical? See, it is like the diagram of DNA. See, this is the structure of the helical nature, right? Polyhedra means like this, right? So these can be present in two forms. One as the helical nature, like a twisted and turn, like two snakes will be moving opposite to each other, right? That is called as helical form. And the last one is that viruses cause diseases. Underline all these things. These are all the disease names: mumps, smallpox, herpes, influenza. The most dangerous disease was AIDS. I am saying was. AIDS in the humans is also caused by a virus. In the plants, the symptoms can be mosaic formation, leaf rolling and curling, common sense, yellowing and vein clearing, dwarfing. The meaning of dwarfing means giddatana, shortness, and stunted growth. Stunted growth means there is a stoppage of, if the plant is growing, it is an increasing way. If the plant has stopped its growth, it is called a stunted growth. Rest all the activities are happening, right? Shortness, dwarfing, and the stunted, the stopped growth. So dear students, I hope you are getting all these points. These are all very useful, and wherever I said and mentioned all those words, please try to repeat them and try to study it once again. Okay. Now coming to the next point called as the viroids. The next section, which is also acellular in nature, which doesn't have any classification or kingdom, right? And the first thing about viruses, these are the next types. 1971, the scientist called as P.O. Diner discovered the new infectious agent that was smaller than viruses. We need to remember this word called as smaller than viruses. There are organisms which are smaller than viruses, which are acellular in nature, which doesn't have any classification or kingdom, and they are viroids. The word is viroids. Okay, and this was isolated from a specific disease, and that disease name was potato spindle tuber disease. Right? Actually, the disease is spindle disease, and potato tuber both means the same. Okay, let me repeat it again. Viroids are those organisms which are acellular in nature, which doesn't have any cell. Viroids are infectious in nature, which means that they can cause diseases. Viroids are smaller than the viruses. Okay, and it was first discovered by a scientist called as P.O. Diner. D-I-E-N-E-R, Diner. Okay, so now the next thing is that it was found to be a free RNA. It lacked the protein coat. Okay, the similarity of virus and viroid is that both are infectious, both are acellular. But in case of virus, we have seen the proteinaceous coat. The proteinaceous coat is named as the capsid and capsomere. I mentioned it, right? But in case of viroid, it is acellular, it is infectious, it is pathogenic, smaller than virus, but and at the same time, it does not contain any protein coat. So protein coat is absent. Hence the name viroid. Okay, so the people ask the question, what is the actual meaning of viroid? because these are acellular, done. These are infectious, done. These are not at all placed in any of the kingdom, done. These are smaller than viruses, done. But the real definition of viroid is that viruses, like viruses, the viroids do not contain any proteinaceous coat, any capsid, any capsomere is absent, absent, absent. Hence the name is viroid. Okay. Now the RNA, the genetic material of the viroid, was of low molecular weight comparing to viruses. So students, I hope you understood about the topic of viroids in a short way. So whatever that we discussed here, it is completely specifically connected to the NCERT syllabus. Okay. Now coming to the next section called as lichens. The third topic of today's main topic called as the viruses over, viroids over, and the third section is lichens, lichens and lichens. Right? So how do the lichens look like? See, in this picture, this is organism number 1 and this is organism number 2. So this is a tree. Okay, this is a tree. This is a plant. And rest this one, that white patchy appearance on the plant is not the plant here. This is a different organism. And this organism is called as lichen. What is that? Lichen. Coming to next word. See, this is one organism. This is one organism. And this is another organism. Okay. So this organism is plant. This simple. This is very easy. This is understandable. This is plant. Okay. But this one is different. This one, this one, this one, this one. All these are lichens. Okay. Now, coming to the characteristics. Lichen is a composite organism. Okay. Now, composite organism that arises from algae or the cyanobacteria, living among the filaments of multiple fungi species in a mutualistic relationships. Lichens are symbiotic associations, that is mutually useful associations between algae and fungi. Dear students, let me tell you and repeat it again that lichens are mutual organisms, which means that lichens are completely waste, lichens are completely dead, lichens are completely inactive if other companion is not there, which means that it needs others' help, other organisms' help for their growth and development. Consider two organisms, organism A and organism B. Okay. Now, A is lichen and B is of two types. It may be other organism, right? So, if the lichen wants to grow, then this lichen should have to be contacting this particular plant or this particular fungi, and it should be in combination with these two, and in the combination itself they should work and they should grow and they should develop. The thing here is that lichen helps the other organism and other organism helps the lichens. Both the organisms will be in the helpful and in the advantageous way only, right? So this kind of relationship wherein which an organism helps another organism and this organism is benefited by this organism, this is called as profit-profit condition or the mutual relationship condition, which means that I have something in me which you don't have and that is needed for you, and you have something which you don't have in your body and that is needed for me, right? And if I give something to you, you give something to me, so that both will grow in the mutually associated way, right? So lichens are those kind of organisms. Okay, they generally grow with respect to two friends. The first friend of lichen is an algae, and the second friend of a lichen is a fungus. Try to remember, I am once again mentioning that the two varieties of lichens are, one is algae, another one is fungi. Okay, so let us enter into that thing. The autotrophic algal component of lichen is called as phycobiont, and heterotrophic fungal component of lichen is mycobiont. So the first thing is that they are saying that algae is a friend of lichen, but the mutual association is autotrophic in nature. Why? Because autotrophs are nothing but those organisms which can prepare their own food for their growth and development. Okay, so hence the name plants and the lichen, and the relationship is autotrophic. Okay, but in case of fungus it is not the case. Funguses are generally heterotrophs in nature. Okay, they are not at all those organisms which can prepare their own food for their growth and development. They are completely dependent organisms, not the independent organisms. So hence the name lichen and fungal association is mutual association, but the association name is heterotrophic association. If the lichen is having friendship with the algae, it is called as phycobiont, phyco, P-H-Y-C-O, phycobiont. And if it is having the relationship with the fungus, then it is called as mycobiont. Now, algae prepare food for fungi. See, what is the connection? Algae prepare food for fungi, and fungi provide shelter and absorb minerals or mineral nutrients and water for its partner. Very simple understanding for this. Lichens are very good pollution indicators. This is one of the neat questions, sir. It has been already asked. Right? Neat question. Right? So, the lichens are very good pollution indicators. They do not grow in polluted areas. Lichens are well known as sensitive indicators of air pollution, particularly for sulfur dioxide. Right? Sulfur dioxide. So, what is the condition here? See, if the nature is very smooth, very beautiful, and no harmful chemicals are present in the nature, and in that nature, the lichens will grow in association with fungi or in association with the algae. But, if there is a pollution, it may be air pollution, it may be water, it may be anything. If there is a pollution, then the lichens will not grow. So, which means that if the lichens are not growing, then this atmosphere is polluted. And generally, that is characterized by the air pollution. Which means that if in the atmosphere the concentration of sulfur dioxide increased, if in the atmosphere the concentration of sulfur dioxide is more, then it is an indicator of the air pollution, and at the same time it is an indicator that lichens will not grow there. Now you have to think that there will be a question following is an indicator of air pollution, will be having some 3 to 4 options, and out of that you have to click lichen. So, lichen is air pollution indicator. Lichen is sulfur dioxide increased in the air pollution indicator. So, lichen is a generally environmental pollution indicator. Okay. Now, so we need to understand first thing that the lichens are generally they are mutual organisms. They mutually present with algae and fungus. Algae's composition is called as the phycobiont help, and mycobiont is with fungal help. And last but not the least, that is the pollution indicator content, right? That has been asked. So, dear students, this is about the lichens, and this is about the entire topic, that is viruses, viroids and lichens. I hope you understood this particular smaller topic, but yet important topic which consisting of so many points in between. So, this is the end of this chapter 2, that is biological classification. I'll come bringing the next chapter or another chapter very soon. So, be with me. I'll bring another video, that is a promise. Until that time, keep studying and keep safe. Bye.